keen to see is how they adjust to the new captaincy. We are going to see that now put to the test right here, right now on Nepal. Just a few seconds till the gates open as we kick off today's games.
Yeah, it's going to be starting things out onto Shrine as well. And as far as the Bazaar team goes, from what little that we have seen, that Tsurusama has been one of the hard carries of this team.
And it'll be interesting to see as well. I mean, speaking of notable things to look out for on Bazaar is you see there currently on the Winston is Bumbarapa, someone who has very much been the spearhead of all their dives. And this is a team that predominantly plays dive. And they kind of live and die by him living and dying.
Yeah, very much so. And looking at the Hong Kong Attitude side as well, Mui, pretty well known as a very good Sombra player, so no surprises there. And actually one role change up, a Ting on Flex, and it's going to be Mitkulti debuting on main tank.
Personally, I am also curious to see how Pichu comes up against Shia Lin here. Both Tracers already going to be hunting for one another around the side. There is the dive in from Bumbarapa, and the follow-up from Tsurusama, just trying to pressure Hong Kong Attitude back, but Hong Kong Attitude just kind of taking the pressure now, reeling back, coming in now for their own round as they look to establish themselves on the point, and it now breaks out into a brawl. Mango, first casualty of the fight, but it is getting traded back upon Hong Kong Attitude, trying to keep the pressure up with their tank line. And they are getting it in there. Bumbarapa getting dangerously low, and that should be the catch out. Indeed it is. And Tsurusama, Hong Kong Attitude weathering the storm, weathering the opening pressure, which was very well placed, but it should be Hong Kong Attitude now getting more established on the point.
You see the discipline coming out from HK as well, the way they rebuff the tank dive by Bumbarapa, the way they sort of just readjust their positioning, go back around the side, rotate around the edges. Bumbarapa comes in again, and this time around, Bazaar, they don't get as many kills as they'd like, and Hong Kong Attitude, they return in kind.
That was a very long fight, now also just kind of dragging out a bit on the back end. One of the interesting things about that, both Tracers got and used their pulse bombs, but if you look at crucial ultimates, Mui nearly having that EMP after just one fight is going to be big for Hong Kong Attitude on the defense.
It's just about heading into the pause now. I do want to also kind of make comment on the fact that Pannies now does have Coalescence available. Mango Jai does not. That's coming down to the fact that Pichu did pick out Mango Jai reasonably early on. So while I did say that Bazaar on their initial dive couldn't really find the targets they're looking for, they got one before it was heavily traded back by Hong Kong Attitude. But now that has given them maybe a slight edge, at least in that one ultimate department, looking at it in a vacuum. That's something that Bazaar will need to use now going to their next fight.
And Hong Kong Attitude really showed their experience there, I would say, in having played against some extremely good dive teams. That was very clean out of Bazaar, all things considered. The timing was very nice, but you have to consider Hong Kong Attitude, they just pulled right back, completely calm. They knew how to handle it. Even in losing Shia Lin, they were able to withstand the pressure, didn't get split up, didn't panic, didn't back off too much, and pick their moment to get back in as well. You've really got to consider that there are definitely a lot of less experienced teams that would have struggled against that opening dive. So credit where it's due, and off the back of that, they got a point cap. So Hong Kong Attitude, I mean, it's not calling it too early, but, you know, they're looking good.
The other thing I want to talk about here is Mui on the Sombra, because he's someone that we've known to play a lot of Sombra in the past, even before the changes, even in cases where, look, maybe a lot of teams wouldn't have wanted to play Sombra in a lot of these places. And I would actually attribute Shrine to that. Shrine isn't typically the place where you would want to see a Sombra, not common anyway. And the fact that Mui still brings it up, we saw a lot of Mui Sombra in the World Cup last year as well in China. So this man is very much got Sombra within his toolkit. This is a big part of his playstyle, in fact. So seeing him onto this hero again and seeing how he performs on that, playing around the EMP is going to be important for both teams. And
an interesting note about the history of Hong Kong Attitude and Sombra is actually they were one of the early adopters of it. And it was Mango playing it at the time, Mango Jai. And there was sort of a time there where they were...
That was before Mui joined, actually.
Yeah, exactly. There was a time there where they were almost famous for using it on the attack part of, Temple of Anubis and also other assault maps as well when possible. Not so much Hanamura just because of the health pack placements. This was also at a time where Sombra charged the ult off the health packs, no longer the case, but this is a team that has been playing Sombra for, you know, some of the longest. They picked it up a long time before a lot of other teams really clued on to how Sombra could be used in different situations. So you've got to consider the experience that this team has. And I do think that is kind of represented in the fact that on Shrine they're running a Sombra who after one fight now has EMP.
Close enough anyway. I think it was about 77%. I think
it was about 80%.
He's about one translocator harass away from it. That's going to be very important for a team like Bazaar to take care of right now. They have to take note of the fact that this is something that's big to play around. We've seen sort of the impact of this this pick across the other matches on Thursday evening and how teams sort of related to it. If anyone is curious, of course, we are on the Contenders patch, which has still got the previous Sombra changes where she doesn't lose her hack after getting damaged and they lose it for 2 seconds at it. So we're not on the Brigida patch just yet. And so teams are still going to very likely be taking advantage of Sombra at her best.
And we have actually seen that so far. I mean, all throughout Thursday, we were seeing Sombra in a lot of different situations, on a lot of different maps, a lot of different teams still willing to play it as well. And actually, we did also see it, funnily enough, on a Shrine phase of Sanctum as well. I believe in our opening match, I want to say Chaos Theory were playing it. But at any rate, unfortunately for them, it didn't quite go so well. So you've also got I mean, you could use that almost as evidence for how solid Hong Kong Attitude do look with the Sombra here. Again, it's just sort of another one of those places where they are showing their experience currently.
And it will be interesting to see how, you know, these kind of teams with this specific playstyle go up against each other, because Talon is a very Sombra-focused team. Persia was playing that for most of that evening, so Hong Kong Attitude being one of the other teams in this group. And by the way, you know, when we kind of look at the groups here, Group A definitely kind of looks like that group of death, because you have Detonated Korea. You also have Talon, which is another, a more rookie team from Korea. And then on top of that, Hong Kong Attitude, who were consistently one of the top teams across Pacific of kind of all time. So, I mean, this team comes in as a heavy favorite. So you've got nearly 3 favorites just in this group. But action underway again, as we have now finally unpaused.
Yeah, it's going to be a close group, and so far that's been reflected in the close fights between these two teams, as Bazaar just wasting no time getting on the point. Hong Kong Attitude at the back off it. There's going to be the blade out from Mitsuru Sama, straight into a Coalescence and a hack. Really stops what he's able to do, and indeed he goes down to the Coalescence, plus the self-destruct from a Ting, and just between those two ultimates, actually a few more committed in the mix as well. Expensive fight, all things considered, for Hong Kong Attitude, but it is a successful fight. Very much so, and they're keeping their lead on as well. This is potentially could have been a big swing for Bazaar, like we sort of already mentioned. That Coalescence advantage is definitely there. Mitsuru Sama did come in with a Dragon Blade as well, but was rebuffed so quickly by Hong Kong Attitude. They had exactly the correct answers they need, but now we have to look at, do they have the resources to stop another attack? Yeah, Pichu knows he cannot take that 1v1 off the side with the hacked health pack in there, so looks for another angle. Mitsuru Sama continuing with the harass alongside his main tank Bumbarapa, who is just trying to dive in with the Primal Rage, but the pressure mounts from the other side of the fence there. A Ting really doing work along with McCulty. It's just a bit of jostling back and forth for now. There's the catch that Mitsuru Sama is looking for, having to commit the sound barrier out now. Bazaar, they don't quite have the ultimates they need to really get an upper hand here, in Hong Kong Attitude about to rotate into some crucial ones of their own. Hong Kong Attitude also waiting for McCulty to get back into the fight, who did previously just die with the Primal Rage available. Double Coalescence. Yeah, double Coalescence straight at each other again. The timing of both these Warrior players are definitely there, and it's Sama, the second Genji play of the game. Ooh, nice catch on Mui, who had just committed that EMP but hadn't caught Mitsuru Sama in it. And that's a big swing for Bazaar, but unfortunately it might not be enough. McCulty able to preserve his life. Shailen going down before he gets the Pulse Bomb out, but with the Ting back in his mech and McCulty with the Primal Rage running, this tank line is looking very healthy. Bazaar are going to have to kind of throw these ultimates into the mix just to try and keep the presence on the point. But it's presence for whom? Because the DPSs are getting very much pressured out. Those that are still there are kind of finding themselves without much support players behind them, and it looks like Hong Kong Attitude, nicely handled by Shailen right at the end. Again, we talk about experience, we talk about caliber, and it's going to be Hong Kong Attitude off the back of that with a shutout to kick it off on Nepal. Very clean play by Hong Kong Attitude, all things considered. 100-0 would indeed suggest that. When you really break it down a little bit further, you look at the fact that you have on one side a Bazaar team that never really got a big advantage. They had some small advantages here and there. They got down McCulty before he used Primal Rage one time around, but then Bumbarapa also died with his own Primal Rage at another juncture. So it's kind of like they have an advantage, they throw one away, but they were never really in the lead. And when you look at 100-0, typically in a 100-0 game, there is at least one fight for the losing team to at least be on neutral standpoint. Yeah. It just didn't feel like that was there for Bazaar. Unfortunately not. And there is one thing we had noted about Bazaar, just in seeing their run through trials, is I suppose a weakness of them at the time, and one you'd certainly hope they will have gone away and addressed in that time, was they was sometimes just a little bit off kilter with their ultimate macro. I don't think we really saw that in there. It wasn't sort of a major issue, but certainly when you talk about them never quite having an upper hand or even an even standing fight, they may be committing extra ultimates where they don't need to, or not drawing out as many from their opponents as they are expecting or hoping. And you do just want to see that get a little bit cleaner, all things considered, especially as we move eventually off control onto, you know, hybrid and escort, especially where that kind of momentum-based gameplay is really critical. And drawing ultimates out both on offense and defense, is a really important part of maintaining momentum or stopping it.
And I would definitely describe Bazaar as the team in terms of play style. I would describe it as brute force.
Yeah.
They're very much a team.
They're a sledgehammer, not a scalpel.
Led by, very much so, led by Bumbarapa, who kind of just, you know, they're definitely very aggressive.
It's in the name.
Dives. It's in the name. So, again, you're expecting more dive. They are going to play some heavier tanks this time around. But it is a team that, you know, you look at the macro, you sort of mentioned this already, there are some mistakes that they do need to clean up, but otherwise, they're hidden, they're sort of straight in your face.
And this is actually a team composition we have seen out of them once again in trials. It's interesting, they seem slightly less comfortable on it, but it often seems to work to greater effect, especially Nutsuru-sama on that Mei. So we will have to see how that plays out for them here. So they are the first on the points to preempt the unlocking.
Yeah, it is a composition that you'd like to be seeing. If you are Bazaar, you'd like to see Hong Kong Attitude play heavy tanks as well. It is going to be the free camp, so that's pretty cute if you get to do that. 3 percentage points puts a lot more pressure onto Hong Kong Attitude. But Hong Kong Attitude, I do also appreciate and really like the patience.
Ooh, good catch on McCulty there. Hong Kong Attitude not as clean on the commit as they were really needing to be. There was already pressure to attack the point as it was unlocking, and they were a bit too slow on that one. Now they're just kind of losing time as they wait for respawns.
Yeah, losing a bit too much time, and Maui does have an EMP now, so they have abilities, they have tools to now use that they can get themselves a pretty clean fight. Mango Giant not too far off.
Oh, wow. Nice angle to get in, and the Riptire on top of it. Oh! Whoa!
Holy moly.
My goodness. That's a wombo combo and a half.
Team kill sounds about right.
Ooh, I felt
Team
that.
kill sounds about right.
I felt that. You know what that was? I was the diva in that situation. That was my solo queue games. The rest of my team gets EMP'd and then wiped by a Riptire.
How perfect is that though? EMP coming down, stop you from doing anything against it.
Oh,
and now the pain continues as well.
Shaolin's just having a field day now. Off the back of that, he's like, I'll get a 5K. I can do anything. I'll kill a tank. I'll kill anything. I'll kill your whole team. Now just able to pop Sadistic out of the mech. The follow-up once again from Shaolin onto Nutsuru-sama. No more ground control to come out of Bazaar thanks to that. And now Bazaar, since they aren't set up on the point, are kind of struggling to make a headway with this team comp, having to swap off despite being very close to some major ultimates.
For Hong Kong Attitude as well, you only gave away 37%. That's not too much because you've already overtaken that in the space of 2 very quick and very clean fights. And for Hong Kong Attitude, we're getting also now back into that sort of macro gameplay where they are ahead. Bazaar just kind of licking their wounds a little, playing a little bit of compositional catch-up, as you sort of noted, changing now heroes coming in, fresh ultimates, they're going to be behind for a little bit.
Aggression from Hong Kong Attitude, and this is actually what Bazaar kind of need. They want Hong Kong Attitude to commit ultimates, then they go EMP as well. A lot being committed, but it's a Ting the first casualty. It looks like Bazaar will end up losing this fight just through, you know, the sheer number of things that Hong Kong Attitude could throw at it. But when you're playing compositional catch-up, that was actually really good for Bazaar because Hong Kong Attitude cleaned themselves out.
This is going to be an important timing for Bazaar to come back in. 75% we're currently on. About 85 is when you should expect Bazaar to then be contesting the point again, or at least be forcing another fight. Any later than that could be a little bit troublesome. They are working towards some of their ultimates, and they are now finally ahead of Hong Kong Attitude. So we go back to the conversation of saying they never really looked ahead. This is the time where they might actually be ahead, and they need to use it.
They need to really commit, though. Hong Kong Attitude are looking to get aggressive in their own right, much the same, but Boombarapa matching it this time around. But Panny's to be the first casualty, as the dive from Hong Kong Attitude is just a bit more overwhelming. Boombarapa, good follow-up on Shaolin, but unfortunately, while he was there, kind of left his mobile offense players there. The DPS is a bit high and dry, and off the back of that, Bazaar just find themselves with not enough members to contest the point. Hong Kong Attitude, not quite 2 shutouts, but after that 5K off the Riptire, it almost feels like it.
It does, that 37%.
Oh, look, let's see it again.
From, 37% from Bazaar didn't even feel that significant, but this was definitely the play.
This was bonkers. Just...
even just slightly disappointed that Sadistic didn't get caught. Didn't die immediately.
Not the mech nor the pilot. But it was like, and it was a couple of like hit points away from the mech already being gone and catching the pilot with it. That would have been like you peak at that point. Like after that, retire. You're done. Like
Shaolin leaves the server straight away.
Just like
disconnects. You see him backing up his
you just see him gets up from the and just walks off, and the rest of the team still wins at 5 versus 6.
Yeah, they're just that.
Just the psychological blow.
It's that big, you know. It's just that powerful.
I mean, I don't want to extrapolate too far from that, but Actually, yes. Like, that was a psychological blow as much as it was a 5K, right? Because Bazaar, it's not like, you know, up until that point it was even, and after that it was a wash. I don't want to say that's far too extreme, but certainly you are, as Bazaar, coming in against Hong Kong Attitude, a well-established team that has played at this level of tournament for a long time. We talked about a lot of their superstar players. We talked about Mui. We talked about Shailin. We talked about how far a Ting has come as a tank player. We talked about where Bazaar maybe had their strengths, maybe where they had things to fix up. And you're playing against this team, you feel like you're going even, and then you get 5K'd.
Yeah.
Like, that is something that you can recover from, but it is going to test this team in how well they can actually mentally recover from that.
It's things that do happen, though, and that will need to be sort of looked at by the Bazaar side. It's actually not too bad either. We're going to take a look at that one more time, because, you know, why not? I want to see it many more times, but the thing is,
loop it.
The thing is, like, the sort of silver lining is, you get reset pretty quickly.
Yes.
If you do want to die, you want it to all die to ultimates, and you want all die together so you can all respawn together. And Bazaar did get that, but just all come back out alive together eventually.
Yeah.
We're going to have a look at what we're going to, what we have to look forward to in the upcoming map anyway, map number 2.
Yeah, which Bazaar do get to now pick, and it does look like we're going to be going to Numbani. So you talk about respawning together. Now they get to travel the world together, land down in a new place. You start off in the airport, which is very fitting. And then you have another fight and hope that you don't get 5K'd by Shailin. You go to the museum.
That's the reason you go to Numbani, to see the museum.
I mean, now that the Doomfist Gauntlet is out of there, actually I'm more curious as to what they're transporting. Because the Doomfist Gauntlet they just had in a glass case. That feels like a pretty serious item to be escorting.
Now you're just actually taking an Uber to the museum.
Now that it's not even visible though, in that opaque tube that it's in, I don't know, it's like carbon fiber or something. Now that you can't see it, I can only assume it's even more valuable and even more dangerous than whatever was in it before. It's a Doom glove. It's not just it's the whole. It's the Infinity Gauntlet. That's like you finally get to the end and then Thanos appears
with
and
the Space Gem and collects his
Yeah. It's really it's like the final boss. You know, it's tough. Like you finally think you've beaten Hong Kong Attitude, boom, final boss. Yep. Music changes and everything. He's got 2 health bars. It's really intense.
You got to beat both attitudes. Both the Hong and
you got to beat the Hong and the Kong. Yeah.
One's not quite
That's the 2 health bars. I thought that joke had finally kind of been retired.
It's a new season.
New season. Start all over again. New season, same puns. Get some new material, buddy. But I am excited to see how Numbani plays out, because I can't really say that this was necessarily a strong or weak map for Hong Kong Attitude. And of course, of these 2 teams, they are the one who we maybe have some relevant history to refer back to. And I also want to touch on something slightly different, but still with regards to the history of this team, because we talked about the change now of the captaincy. I don't know who is calling the shots right now, but they are doing so with panache and grace. Everything looked very, very clean.
Well, the thing is, even in OWC Season 2, Holiday Cow as the captain was already not on the core roster, so they kind of had, in terms of at least the leadership in-game and shot calling in-game, that was sort of sorted out, and they've seemed to have carried that all over into Contenders Season 1 now as well. Fresh map, though, for Bazaar, and a fresh opportunity to get something on the board.
Hong Kong Attitude just really, you know, they're repping the Pacific Classic, the long gun, short gun of Soldier 76 and Tracer, and Bazaar running a Soldier of their own. And it is, interestingly enough, going to be Pichu on the Genji, not Natsudu-sama, so they obviously value him on the Soldier.
We have seen a lot of Soldier setups on attack as well, but it's going to be Pandy's going down, and that's a Soldier gone.
Yep, that's very unfortunate, but that is the cleanliness of the dive from Hong Kong Attitude. You see just the tank line along with Shailin on the Tracer going into great effect. Interesting, by the way, it's actually a Ting playing the Diva, and McCulty is coming in as their main Winston. It had been a Ting as the main Winston previously.
What in the previous season? So far that we've seen Contenders, this is what they've been running.
Yes, that's what I mean.
But you know, you have to go back to, and the main word I'd use to describe Hong Kong Attitude right now has to be discipline, because you had Mui in the bottom right corner that you sort of saw from his perspective, just pulls himself back, and you have Mango Jai pulling himself back as well. And you saw this backline is always very safe and always has a lot of output. And so far in Bazaar, you'd like to see them set up Natsudu-sama in a very similar fashion. Get him into the high ground, give him some line of sight to play with, and that's when Bazaar's going to see some results.
But of course, Hong Kong Attitude's #1 priority is to exactly prevent that nice bio grenade. Just completely takes him out of the picture. The follow-up to come out now from Shailin and McCulty again, and then the moment they've done enough work, here you see it, pulling back, nice and safe, inside of the healers. They know they've stopped the push. They don't need to commit anything more.
They don't have to overchase here. They don't have to get too greedy. They don't want to be punished by Bazaar pulling back and then turning back around on top of them. Natsuru-sama and Pixie now kind of changing things. Well, actually more so just Natsuru-sama changing on the Tracer, but it is still sort of the opposite of what we saw on the pole anyway. This is going to be now a more traditional dive rather than trying to set this Soldier up.
And I do like that reaction out of Bazaar. They recognize that Hong Kong Attitude are too good at shutting down the Soldier. Now they can dive themselves, but sleep on Boombarapa. He's not dead, but it hurts a lot. And Mui able to just wheel back, open up with the tactical visor as McCulty recommits on the dive. Again, you see the cleanliness, and look at the angle there. Mui, wow, able to catch the mech as well. And this should just take the wind right out of Bazaar's sails. Indeed, it does. Once again, now actually McCulty can go a bit further on the follow-up potentially. Doesn't need to, though. I think he's going to back off.
We've had nearly 2 minutes and 30 gone now. This is going to be a super long stagger and sadistic, and that's exactly what it is, by the way, as well. And Hong Kong Attitude now sitting on 4 ultimates. Going to be 5 pretty soon when CQB gets himself up there. Bazaar got to wait another 5-6 seconds for this. They're not going to have an attack until the 1 minute mark, and then that might end up being their last.
That was so much time that Hong Kong Attitude were able to waste out of Bazaar's clock. That is really incredible. I mean, yeah, it's standard. You know, we normally see that, but rarely do we see it go on that long.
So this has to be the star push now from Bazaar. This is the Doom push. This is the one that needs to work. They got all the ultimates now. They've been banking it for a while.
Again, the Bionade right on both tanks just before they go in for the dive. So he does have to commit. The Valkyrie Picho, good open up, takes Mui out of the picture. Needs to get a lot more than just that. Double self-destruct means no one can fight on the point, at least for the time being, but now back into the mix. And it looks like this is the one Bazaar need to at least get something going in their direction, but with the supports getting hammered away at, indeed both of them now dead, it's just these 2 tanks having to do all the work. The respawn's closer anyway for Hong Kong Attitude, and it looks like Bazaar just don't have enough members left on this point. Even as they pick a Ting's mech, it's not going to count for anything as Sadistics gets bumped off the edge. Sorry, a Ting happy to take a dive for that. 15 seconds, it looks like Bazaar is all but done.
And Hong Kong Attitude still got another ultimate to use as well. Likely to see the nano boost onto McCulty here just to stop Bazaar from getting anything done. A couple of very quick hero changes on the Bazaar side. Final attempt there, final moments, final seconds. They got to get something out of this.
And they're just charging for the point now. Do get some feet onto it, but Panny's already dead. The dive just too clean and convincing once again from Hong Kong Attitude. The timing is flawless. They handle the tanks. They deal with whatever, like a shock absorber almost, and just clean out anything else behind such that it could not even follow up on the tanks if they wanted to. That is really, really commanding out of Hong Kong Attitude.
It's also a really accurate way to sort of describe both the playstyle and results so far of Hong Kong Attitude so far that we've seen in the series, where it does seem like a lot of times it is Bazaar as a sort of brute-forcing team. They're trying to punch their way through a wall, and Hong Kong Attitude just absorbing the blows. They're absorbing it and then kind of hitting back almost twice as hard in a lot of cases. So this is the team that, from Hong Kong Attitude's perspective, they're able to read what Bazaar want to be able to do, pull back just a little bit and just allow the pressure to be there and then just come back swinging harder.
And I mean, to you know, harken back to that metaphor, Bazaar are a sledgehammer. They're certainly not a scalpel, but Hong Kong Attitude are a scalpel. You know, like you said, once they have kind of absorbed that blow, they seem to hit back even harder. But
they're like a bouncy wall. You hit the bouncy wall and you smack yourself with the sledgehammer.
I mean, sure, I would have put it more as like a cushion attached to a scalpel. I don't know. But more importantly, when they are hitting back, they're hitting back with a real precision. They're going after the exact right members at the right time. They just deal with whatever the dive is doing and then kind of pull the rug out from underneath them. You know, they knock out the supports. They've already often bionated the tanks using the anti-heal on Ana. And suddenly Bazaar, even if they're in the fight, even if they're doing well, it's almost impossible to come out the better of that sort of situation.
The counters were there, right, for Hong Kong Attitude. You had, it was, I believe, CQB actually on the Ana. Usually you would have seen Mango Jar, but I guess he's the better Zenyatta player. Anyway, CQB on the Ana, landing Bionade after Bionade on both the tanks of Boombarapa and Sadistic, and then getting a Sleep Dart onto Boombarapa as well. So just shutting down those tanks. Second to that, on the other side, you get McCulty on Winston, shutting down with assistance from Mui and a couple other guys, shutting down Natsuru-sama on the Soldier every time they want to come up. So much so that they had to change onto the Tracer, but by then it was a little too late.
Interesting here, speaking of Soldier, Natsuru-sama back on it, and Bazaar running their own long gun, short gun here. But Pharmacy out of Hong Kong Attitude.
It's a triple DPS and one healer, so CQB's got his work cut out for him, at least from the healing side. Theory does go, though. If you don't take damage, you don't need to heal.
Wow, and when you take out the one-hit scan DPS, suddenly the Pharah gets free reign, and off the back of that, plus the pressure from McCulty and a Ting, Bazaar just crumbling fast. Now Boombarapa down, Pichu getting pressured out, Sadistic also getting forced away from the fight. They're desperately trying to hold the grounds. They only need a third here, Hong Kong Attitude, and it looks like they're going to get it without too much difficulty. That was a wash.
Hong Kong Attitude with the speed run and Nambani there against Bazaar. So you just got to.
They got somewhere to be.
You got to look at the precision. I think the description of the scalpel is very accurate here because the difference in their ability to dive in. This could be one of the plays where McCulty shuts down Nitsuno-sama. One of the many plays where that happens. But either case. But Hong Kong Attitude knew exactly what they needed to do to win this game. On the defense, it was to shut down the soldier setup and then to just kind of absorb and then swing back against the dive of Bazaar. And then against Bazaar in attack, they knew what they needed to get rid of. Their dive was so much more coordinated. Even with only one healer, no one on Hong Kong Attitude died. And as was already mentioned, if you don't take damage, you don't need to heal, and that's basically what Hong Kong Attitude did.
Yeah, funnily enough, and it was the precision, right? It was how quick and how accurate they were in who they were prioritizing in each situation. They looked at the team comm, and in an instant they knew where everyone was, who they needed to kill first. You saw how quickly Nitsuru-sama died. I mean, I feel like I'm just using the same word over and over again, but precise, right? They took out the hit scan DPS. Suddenly Mango gets free reign. Then he can start pressuring the tanks so that they can't save the supports, and the rest of the divers go after the supports. And the supports are dead. Now it's just the tanks trying to hold ground with no healers and no DPSs to be tanking for anyway. And it's just a landslide from that point, right? Like how quickly that was read, how quickly the plan was come up with and communicated. I mean, if you want to talk about maybe changes in captaincy, and I mean, you did mention Holiday Cow had been on the bench for a while prior to this regardless, but the shot calling is as clean as ever, if not better, out of Hong Kong Attitude, who are, for this first season of Contenders, really hopeful to even maybe take a first-place finish at the end of it all. That is the trajectory they've been on throughout the Pacific circuits. They really want to see that culminate, and they are off to a hot start.
And it looks like a good start with, by the way, 2 new players, one of which we haven't seen, and also a role swap even within the core lineup as well. So a couple changes, doesn't look like it's phased them, doesn't look like it's really changed the game plan of Hong Kong Attitude. Still the Hong Kong Attitude that we know, still looks good. Let's take a look now at what map number 3 is. Horizon Lunar Colony, once again, picked by Bazaar as the losing team. And we looked at Nepal and said, that was a lot more competitive. You had Bazaar kind of getting a cap in there, sneaking a cap in there, if you will, trading some team fights and trading blows almost roughly evenly at some points. Then you look at Nambani, that was very much a Hong Kong Attitude game.
Oh, wow.
And as we move through these more well, I guess just not control type maps, the kind of maps where it is escort, it is hybrid and assaults, where I want to go ahead and say, you know, the macro portion is a little bit more important, a little bit more intensive. This is where Hong Kong Attitude is really shining. Yeah, not only are we seeing that in comparison to Bazaar, we're also just seeing in general Hong Kong Attitude kind of up to full steam now, you know? And this is a common thing across all teams a lot of the time. I don't like to use the term slow starter because I think that refers to something much more specific. But certainly, you know, the first game of the first day and the first map of it is always going to be a little bit of a different story. But now Hong Kong Attitude looking in full swing. All right, and with that, we're going to go to a break. But when we do come back, it's going to be map 3 in the series.